when I interviewed Roger Kelly, this guy here, um, he was a Grand Dragon then. Um, I had my secretary, I knew who he was. I knew what he looked like. I seen him on TV, seen him in the paper. We'd never met. And I was just starting my interview process, right? But I've been, prepping for that for years. And so anyway, I had my secretary call him. I specifically said, do not tell him that I'm black. If he asks, don't lie to him, but don't give him reason to ask. I'd already been told uh, by a former Klansman not to fool with the guy because he would kill me. And I said, well, that's why I need to see him. Why would he kill me just because I'm black? I don't get this. He says, Daryl, you don't want to fool with him. And I said, well, I do want to question him. So I had her call him. He agreed to do the interview. And we set it up in a motel. And Mary and I got there early. And then when he came in a suit and tie with his bodyguard. The way the room just happened to be, if you're standing in the hallway looking into the room, you cannot see who's in the room. You have to come into the room, turn to your right, and go around the corner. And then you see who's in the room. So I took the lamp off and put it in the most obscure corner of the room. So whoever's coming in would have to come halfway into the room before they'd even see me, right? So I gave Mary some money and sent her down the hall to get soda pop out of the vending machine and get ice out of the ice machine, put it in the ice bucket, get everything cold. I had no idea what Mr. Kelly was going to do. Would he look at me and say, I'm not talking to you, and turn around and walk away? Would he attack me? Or would he come in the room as he told Mary he would do and do the interview? I had no idea what he was going to do, but I knew what I was going to do. I was going to be hospitable. I was going to offer him a cold, soda pop. And so we got all that set. Well, right on time at 5:15, there's a knock on the door. Mary hops up and runs around the corner and opens the door. I'm seated at my table. I had a black canvas bag here, which I had a cassette recorder in there, which I had set on the table. I had a copy of the Bible because the Ku Klux Klan claims to be a Christian organization, and they claim that the Bible itself preaches racial separation. Now, I've read the Bible. I'm Christian. I've never seen that in there. So I want to be able to, pull up my Bible and say, here, Mr. Kelly, please show me chapter and verse where it says blacks and whites must be separate. So I'm all prepared and blank cassettes in there. So Mary opens the door. In walks what is known as the Grand Nighthawk. Grand, of course, means state level. Nighthawk is Klan terminology for bodyguard security. So in walks the Grand Nighthawk, who's the bodyguard to the Grand Dragon, like an Imperial Nighthawk, who's the bodyguard to the Imperial Wizard. So this guy walks in. He's wearing military camouflage, that red circle cross blood drop patch here, the letters KKK on the other side, embroidered on his cap. It said Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And he had a semi-automatic handgun in a holster right here. He comes in and he turns the corner and he sees me and just freezes. He froze like right in place. Well, Mr. Kelly is on the other side of the corner and doesn't realize that his Nighthawk has stopped short. He came around the corner and slammed into the guy and knocked the Nighthawk forward. And now they both are stumbling around, looking all over, and I'm just sitting there at the table looking at them. And I can read their faces. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, did the desk clerk give us the wrong room number, or is this an ambush? So I stood up and I went like this to show my hands. I had nothing in my hands. And I walked forward. I said, hi, Mr. Kelly. I'm Daryl Davis. He shook my hand. So did the Nighthawk. So far, so good,
so
right?
This is the Grand Dragon and his bodyguard.
Yep.
Okay.
So they shook my hand. So far, so good. I said, please, come on in. Have a seat. Mr. Kelly sat down. And the Nighthawk stood at attention to his right. And right before I could sit down, Mr. Kelly asked me if I had some identification. And I gave him my driver's license. He said, oh, you live on such and such street in Silver Spring. I'm wondering in my head, why is this man reading my address? All he needs to do is look at the picture, look at me, see my name, match it up, and give me back my license. You don't need my address. Are you going to come burn a cross in my yard or what? I didn't realize that day that I was being presumptuous. But just to, level the playing ground, I had his address because the guy gave it to me who swore me to secrecy, right? I said, yes, Mr. Kelly, that is where I live. I said, and you live at, and I called off his house number and his street. So that way he knew, if you come visit me, I can come visit you. So we're going to confine all the visiting to this motel room, right? So he smiled, nodded his head. I did not know at the time, I had no reason to be fearful. One of his members lives right down the street. Not anymore, he's in prison now, but right down the street here. So Mr. Kelly simply recognized my street name. It was just pure coincidence. We had no way of knowing that. All right, so anyway, we got on with this interview. Every time Mr. Kelly would say, well, Mr. Davis, the Bible says, I'd reach down, pull out my Bible, or if my cassette ran out of tape, I'd reach down and get a fresh cassette to pop in. Every time I went like this, to go inside the bag, the Nighthawk went like this, okay? He never pulled out his gun, but he rested his hand on the butt of the gun. He's doing his job. I totally understood that. I'm the enemy. I'm the black guy. He doesn't know what's in this bag, So he's doing his job to protect himself and his boss. So after about 45 minutes of me reaching down, him reaching up, he finally relaxed and realized there was no threat in the bag. And I went in and out of the bag, and he didn't move. He was cool, right? So maybe just over an hour or so into this interview, we're sitting a lot closer than you and I are right now. How little lamp tables are in a motel room. We're like this far apart. And Mr. Kelly and I are just talking casually, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was a very fast, very short noise, like a that was it. And we all jumped because it wasn't something that, was part of the normal conversation. It came out of nowhere and boom, it was gone. So it startled us and we all jumped. And I jumped up out of my seat and I hit the table. And I'm getting ready to come across that table. I did not know what the noise was. It was too fast and too short for my ear to discern it. But I knew that Mr. Kelly had made the noise. And all I could hear in the back of my head was, Daryl, don't fool with Roger Kelly, he will kill you. The words of that, other guy. And I thought, uh-oh, I've done something, and now I got to get ready to protect myself and protect my secretary. When you fear for your life, you go into what's called survival mode. And there are very few things people can do. Some people, they faint, they pass out. Because the fear is so great, their brain can't process it, and the brain shuts down, and they faint. I don't do that. Another thing people will do, their muscles will constrict, and they'll ball up and start shaking. And you can be punching them, kicking them. They're not even trying to block. They're like that. That's called paralysis by fear. I don't do that either. Another thing people will do is to run away. That is your best option. As quickly as you can, separate yourself from the source of the fear. Get away from it, right? And that's the option that I would have chosen had it been available. But how am I going to outrun a bullet in a motel room? I'm not armed. Mary's not armed. So the only person I know for sure who is armed is a Nighthawk. I can see his weapon on his hip. I didn't know if Mr. Kelly had a weapon up under his suit, tie, and jacket, right? So I knew I could not run a bullet. So your last option is to do a preemptive strike. Get them before they get you. And when I flew out of the chair, I was on my way to dive across the table, grab the Nighthawk, grab Mr. Kelly, slam them down to the ground, and take away the Nighthawk's gun, all right, and immobilize the situation. But when I hit the table, I'm looking right into Mr. Kelly's eyes because I figured he made that noise. And I didn't say anything to him. I'm just looking into his eyes. And his eyes are fixated on mine. I could read his eyes. My eyes were saying to him, what did you just do? His eyes were saying to me the same thing. And the Nighthawk had his hand on his gun, looking at both of us like, what did either one of y'all just do? Well, Mary was sitting on top of the dresser to my left because there were no more chairs in the room. And she realized what had happened. And she began explaining it to us when it happened again. And we all began laughing. The bucket of ice and cans of soda were to Mary's left on the dresser. The ice had begun melting, and the cans of soda were falling down the ice. That was it, And so we all began laughing. It's hard enough to picture a Klan leader and a black guy sitting together at a table in a motel room, but let alone picture those same two people laughing together, But that proves that we were human. We have human emotions. We felt fear, and when the fear was addressed and corrected, we all felt relief, and we all felt humor in the situation. So these were teaching moments. I won't say they were learning moments, but the most important lesson that was taught was this. all because some foreign, an underscore, circle, highlight the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, that being the bucket of ice cans of soda. I mean, we knew it was over there, but we'd long forgotten about it. We're so engrossed in conversation, and now it made some weird noise and we freaked out. Um, all because some foreign entity of which we were ignorant entered into our little comfort zone, we became fearful of each other. All right? It's like you call a Zoom call and you know everybody on the Zoom call, but somebody pops up that you don't know, you never seen them. It's like, what's this? So ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things of which we're ignorant. If you don't keep that fear in check, that fear will escalate into hatred because you hate the things that frighten you. If you don't keep that hatred in check, that will escalate into destruction. Because people who hate, they get angry and they want to destroy the things that they hate. Why? Because those things that they hate frighten them. All right. So the thing of it is the hate, the destruction, and the fear are all symptoms of the root cause. The root cause is ignorance. If you cure the ignorance, right, then there's nothing to fear. You don't fear what you know. You fear what you don't know, right? And with nothing to, if you cure the ignorance, there's nothing to fear. With nothing to fear, there's nothing to hate. With nothing to hate, there's nothing to get mad about and destroy. The thing of it is we can cure the ignorance. There is a cure for ignorance. It's called exposure and education. And so, anyway, so that was a teaching moment, and the learning would come later on. And so we're sitting across from each other over a little lamp table in a motel. Took the lamp off, and he said a lot of racist things, and I'm just sitting there listening to him, recording it, and questioning him, and everything was good. And so not that I agreed with when I say everything was good. Everything was calm and collected. We had one little incident in the room, but anyway, at the end, he came in with like a big briefcase, and I just thought that his robe was in that briefcase, and I asked him. I said, "Do you have your robe and hood in there?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Would you mind putting it on? And let me take a picture of you." He said, "Okay." So that's the picture that actually in the motel room, and so when he was standing at I'm sitting at the table, right? He was in a suit and tie. He put the briefcase on top of the one of the two beds in the room, opened it up and put out the robe and hood. Now, I've seen Klansmen in robes and hoods before. I've seen them march, but I never had one put on the robe and hood right in front of me in the same room. So I'm sitting there, and he's standing in front of the dresser mirror, getting his hood adjusted, and his bodyguard is fixing the cape and all that. And I felt all kinds of feelings come out of me at the same time. It's hard to describe it. I felt angry. I felt sad for him. I felt bitter. I even felt violent, like I could just jump up and just take him down because of all the atrocities that had been committed against my ancestors by people who wore robes just like that. It just welled up in me, right? But I had to remind myself, Daryl, calm down. You invited him here, and he came. He saw you at the door. He could have turned around and walked away. You asked him to come in and have a seat and be interviewed, and he did. So you asked him to put on his robe. Why are you more angry with him with his robe on than you were when he was sitting across the table in a suit and tie? It's the same person. So I, calmed myself down. He had done everything I asked him to do. So why would I beat him up? And so that kind of calmed me down.
Were you afraid?
No, I was not afraid. People always assume that I had fear or was fearful. I was not. And let me explain it this way. If perhaps, I can't go back in time and tell you how I would have done something if it was different, but if perhaps I had not had all that travel experience as a kid, I had not seen as much as I'd seen of different people, would I be doing this work today? Maybe not. Maybe I'd be trying to stay as far away from those people as I could because they don't like me. There's no reason for me to like them, and we can get along just fine as long as we go parallel and don't cross each other, right? So I had been exposed to all kinds of people, white or otherwise, that did not behave the way these people did. So I didn't really have the fear. I assumed they were more afraid of me. Because why would you form an organization to get rid of black people and Jewish people and whatever other people unless you had some fear of them, right? So I didn't fear them. And furthermore, that's just a piece of material, right? It doesn't matter. There are people who believe the same way as that, but they wear a police officer's uniform with a badge and a gun, or a judge's robe and hood, or a Hawaiian shirt and Bermuda shorts. That's just outer covering. Don't judge somebody by what they wear. Judge them by what they feel and what they think.
And all things considered, the interview went well. How
Yeah.
did you end things with him?
Well, I thanked him, shook his hand, and I said, hey, I might have some questions. I'm going to review the tape. Maybe we can talk again in a couple weeks. Yeah, okay, cool. That was fine.
And he was receptive.
Yeah, yeah.